You know that sound? It starts out quiet, a rhythmic little tick. You might just brush it off, right? Thinking, the car's just getting a little older. But here's the thing. That sound, it's not just noise. It's a warning.
Yeah, that tick, that tiny little sound is actually a huge deal. And I'm not exaggerating. For a massive number of car owners, it's the very first sign that something is seriously wrong. We're talking about cars with the super common 3.6-liter Pentastar engine. So if you're driving a modern Jeep, a Chrysler, or a Dodge, there's a really good chance that's the engine you've got under your hood. And that little tick? Well, you can think of it as the engine's way of, crying for help. And look, let's be crystal clear here. This is not just some annoying little noise. If you ignore this sound, you could be looking at what one expert calls, and I'm quoting here, catastrophic engine failure. Seriously, the stakes just couldn't be any higher. All right, so you've heard the tick. What's your first move? Come on. You know what you do. It's what we all do. You grab your phone and you head straight to the internet. And that, my friends, is where the next chapter of this whole ordeal really kicks off. Your first stop, it's almost always the community forums, right? These places are kind of like digital campfires where owners get together to share their war stories. So there you are, scrolling and scrolling through posts about everything from finding a decent mechanic to horror stories about frame rust, just desperately hoping, praying you'll find someone who's heard the exact same tick you're hearing. And then, after what feels like hours of digging, bam, you strike gold, a YouTube video. And the title, it perfectly describes your problem. You're watching this mechanic just methodically tear down the engine, explaining every single step. Oh man, that feeling of relief is just incredible. You start thinking, okay, maybe I can actually do this. But the internet is also a wilderness, and it is full of dead ends. You'll click a link that looks like the perfect resource, engineforums.com, sound promising, right? Only to find out it's just a parked domain name for sale for almost $5,000. It's so frustrating. It's just a reminder that not every lead is a good one, and even when you do find something, you're basically putting all your faith in some stranger on the internet. So what is the Pentastar Tick really? Well, deep inside your engine, you've got these things called rocker arms. They're super important for opening and closing the engine's valves. Now, they're supposed to roll smoothly on these tiny little needle bearings. The tick you hear, that's the sound of those bearings completely failing. And now, instead of rolling smoothly, you've just got metal slapping against metal, over and over and over with every single rotation of the engine. And listen, this is probably the most important part of this whole thing. This is not your fault. Seriously, it's not because you skipped an oil change or something. Experts all agree it's a known design flaw. It's a defect in the parts themselves, which means for so many owners, it's really not a question of if this will happen, but when. So now you know. You know what the problem is, you know it's serious, and you know it's not your fault. And that knowledge brings every single owner to this huge crossroads. What do you do now? Do you try to fix it yourself? Or do you hand over thousands of dollars to a professional? Okay, let's just put this decision into perspective for a second. Think about something simple, like an oil change. You need a few basic tools, it takes maybe an hour, and the risk of messing it up badly is pretty low, okay? Now, on the other hand, you have this rocker arm job. You're gonna need specialized engine tools. This is a multi-day complex procedure. And the risk of making one tiny mistake that destroys your entire engine is incredibly high. So with stakes that high, why would anyone on Earth even consider doing it themselves? Well, the answer is simple. Money. It's all about the money. I mean, just look at the savings from something as basic as an oil change. You're saving over $100 every time you do it yourself. That adds up, and it adds up fast. In fact, get this, over a 10-year span, just doing your own basic maintenance could save you nearly $4,000. So you see a number like that, and then you look at the scary quote the shop gave you for this rocker arm job, and suddenly the temptation to just do it yourself becomes really, really strong. But here's the question, the one that's going to keep you up at night. The savings look amazing on paper, sure, but what's the cost of getting this wrong? Because if you make just one wrong move here, you're not just calling a tow truck. You could be buying a whole new engine. So, for those of you who are brave enough to actually try it, what does this whole ordeal really look like? Let's dive deep inside the engine and find out. The whole job really breaks down into four 4 pretty daunting stages. First, you've got the teardown, which means removing layer after layer of components just to get to the guts of the engine. Then comes the most critical step of all, locking the engine's timing. And you cannot get this wrong. If you do, pistons will literally smash into valves, and your engine is toast, destroyed. After that, you have to carefully swap out all 24 rocker arms. And finally, you have to put the entire complicated puzzle back together perfectly.
Oh, and it gets even more complicated, because while you're in there, you might find other little time bombs waiting to go off. For instance, mechanics have discovered these things called oil galley plugs that can just vibrate loose over time. And if one of those falls down into the timing chain, yep, your engine is done for. It's the kind of hidden danger you would never even know to look for without some expert guidance. And hey, let's not forget about the sheer brute force this job takes. This isn't just a mental challenge, it's a physical one too. As one mechanic joked, and I love this, some of these bolts are on there so tight, you'd better eat your Wheaties.
But one way or another, whether it's by your own 2 hands or pros, the work eventually gets done. And that brings us to the aftermath. What can we actually learn from this whole crazy journey?
You get in, you turn the key, and you listen. And where there was once that constant, maddening tick, now there's just silence. The engine is quiet, the immediate problem is solved, and your journey to fix this one single thing is finally over.
So, what are the big takeaways here? First, a tiny, seemingly insignificant sound can be a warning sign for a massive, massive problem. Second, the online community, the forums, the YouTube guides, it's become an absolutely indispensable resource, even if you have to sort through some junk to find the gems. This whole thing also proves that the line between simple DIY maintenance and expert-level repair is getting blurrier and way more complicated. Now more than ever, you really have to understand your vehicle.
And all of this leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. When a manufacturer designs and sells an engine with a known widespread flaw, a flaw that's going to cost owners thousands of dollars to fix down the road, who is ultimately responsible? Is it the person who bought the car, trusting it was well made, or is it the company that engineered the problem in the first place? It's a huge question, and it's one that goes way beyond a simple engine repair, that's for sure.